There is no question that Airbnb has changed the vacation rental game. For us and our family, if we're traveling, 9 times out of 10, we just get a home on Airbnb. For the most part, it's a great experience. Actually, as a company, we've been renting a home for 4 days to film all of our content for the month. And it's been a pretty rad experience. But what's the experience like on the other side for the investor who wants to buy a home and put it on Airbnb as a short-term rental? That's what we're gonna cover today. All the pros and cons of an Airbnb investor. So if this is an option that you're looking for, hopefully you'll be more equipped to make that decision after the end of this video. But before we start, hit the like button, subscribe. Let's blow this channel up and get it out there. Let's start with the first pro that you kind of hear everybody talk about, and that you can make more money as an Airbnb investor than you can a traditional long-term investor. And here's the idea. Looking at, let's say, Texas, you can rent out a home for $2,500 a month. Well, if you do a short-term rental on Airbnb, the average daily rate is $195. That's considering a 67% occupancy rate, which comes out to about $3,900 a month, or an additional $17,000 of annual gross income. In my perspective, that's kind of the largest pro. Here's another pro, and a crazy one, that you don't even have to own a property to rent it on Airbnb. And what a lot of people do is they'll find an owner, rent the property from them, and then with the owner's permission, take that rental and put it on Airbnb, capturing the spread. Now, a lot of people ask, why would an owner do that? Truthfully, a lot of owners have a portfolio and all they want is long-term rentals. They don't want to go through the hassle of a short-term rental on Airbnb, which we'll cover at the end. So there's actually a lot of people out there that are willing to do this, which leaves an opportunity for you. The last pro that I can think of is marketing is really easy for new tenants. Airbnb makes it easy for people to find your home, where when you're looking for long-term tenants, it actually is hard sometimes to find good quality tenants to rent your home or your apartment. So I think that's actually a pretty big pro to mention. Now, like any investment, there's risks, or in this case, cons, because we're doing pros and cons. And the number one con you hear about for Airbnb investors is that your operating expenses are a lot higher. Now, you can make that argument if you're making more income from it, that at the end of the day, your net operating income will be greater even with the larger expenses. So there is that, but something to consider, Airbnb is way more hands on deck than a long-term rental where you're just kind of watching the cash flow come in. I mean, think about it. These are guests that rent for sometimes 2 nights. So you have to go in and get everything ready for the next guest pretty frequently. One thing I've noticed as a guest is all the dialogue I have to have with the owner. Here's the security code, the Wi-Fi, all the ins and outs of the property. You'll have to do that as the owner. Also, kind of staying up on what's happening in the area. If there's certain events, you might be able to charge more. If there's nothing going on, you'll have to charge less. So it means that you have to stay up to date on everything going on. So it is time consuming. Another con is getting a bad review. Now, we talked about kind of one of the pros with Airbnb being that it's easy to market your home. Well, one of the cons is when somebody has a bad stay with you, it's very visible for new renters to see it, which can impact people renting. Now, Airbnb does have a policy where they kind of have a 2-week period before it goes public. You can dispute it, but things happen. This actually happened to us. We were in San Clemente for maybe one of our kids' birthdays. We got an Airbnb. It's me, my wife, and our 2 kids. They were 5 and 3 at the time. So we think everything goes good. We get home, not thinking anything of it. 3 weeks go by. We pull up our Airbnb app, and we have the gnarliest review about us. They threw parties. They were loud. It was awful. My wife, looking at it, goes, what the heck are they talking about? Tries to dispute it. The owner basically doesn't have it, and it actually made it hard for us to rent new places, even though the thing that they were kind of dinging us about didn't even happen. So by not staying on it, bad things could happen, which may make it hard for you to rent your property. So it kind of lends to the con above. It takes a lot of work to do this. Now, this one is specific to new investors, but if you are a new investor and you want to start with an Airbnb, this could be a way to make good money. But something that you are going to be challenged by as you go down this path is it's hard to scale. It's hard to go out and buy 20 individual homes as opposed to buying one 20-unit apartment. And then managing 20 individual homes is a much harder operation than managing one apartment building. So kind of the last 3 points we made, I think all lend to this. this will be a second job for you. So if you are okay taking on a second job, this could be a great place to start. Speaking of management, short-term renters do damage on your building. So one, make sure you have great insurance. Two, something no one really talks about is how Airbnbs are gonna perform during a recession. You know, we don't really have an example because Airbnb hasn't gone through this yet, but I'm kind of assuming it's gonna respond similar to hotels, or probably more importantly, like vacation rentals during an economic downturn, which have a hard time. So you could see how demand can dry up in this asset class and leave you with an asset that is very difficult to rent out. Now, you could make the argument that if that happens, you just switch it over into a long-term rental. But a lot of times when you're looking at Airbnbs, you're looking for them in areas that are vacation driven. So just keep that in mind that I don't know how it's gonna perform yet, but if I'm right in my assumption that it's gonna be like vacation homes, that could be a challenge for you. All in all, if you are okay getting a second job and wanting to make some money, Airbnb could be a good option for you. Now, it is dependent on you buying right, managing your property correctly, making sure it's desirable, tenants having a great experience, but this could be a great option. For anyone who's watching this that is an Airbnb investor, please leave us a comment. I'd actually be really curious on your thoughts. I hope this video leaves everybody with a little bit more information in trying to make this decision to see if this is a good path for you.